We're really here in part because Brother Etan wanted to convene this panel and have this conversation here in Harlem about the issue of fatherhood. And I wanted Etan to just start talking about why he wrote this book and what was the motivation behind this book and why is this issue important for us now.
First thing, Pastor, we have this panel in the church. Thanks to all the members for definitely taking time out your schedule. Everybody has busy schedules, and thank all the work that Teresa Luz did to really bring this. To young people who grew up in a single-parent household. That was really my first main reason to write this. I grew up in a single-parent household, me and my brother, and I've always heard all the negative statistics being thrown at me about how I was probably going to, since I was coming from a broken home, I was probably going to end up in jail, or end up as a dropout, or girls were going to end up pregnant, or something terrible. So I wanted to do something to show young people that it doesn't have to be that way. You know what I mean? I don't care what the statistics are. I want to men who they would listen to. So if you don't want to, just take my word for it, you can hear Ice Cube say it. You can hear Mary Davis say it. You can hear Styles P. You can hear everybody, just join in and giving you the same word. And what I want to do with these panels is really just continue that. Because young people listen to people who they recognize. Listen to athletes, entertainers, rappers, everybody. That's what young people pay attention. That's why I paid attention when I was young. And I wanted them to really hear a lot of different things. That some people who they recognize have gone through some of the things that they're going through now. And they were able to make the right choices and the right decisions, and they don't have to end up, incarcerated. I do a lot of young people in prisons. And it hurts my heart every time that I see it. And every time that I hear their anger, their pain, their frustration, and they don't know what to do. I just went to a prison in D.C., a Christian facility, and it was filled, like this with all young people that look like me. And I'm tired of seeing it. I really am tired of seeing it, and I want to do something. Because they're going to hear the negativity. They're going to hear it all the time. And sometimes things aren't fair. Sometimes there's systems put in place for you to fail. There are. But it is your job not to fall into those holes. It's a two-part message. There's a certain reason why, in inner city schools, there's brand new metal detectors and old books. You know what I mean? And then they give you the standardized tests like you get the same education and compare you to the schools in the suburbs. Like y'all get the same thing. When your test scores are the same, they say, see, that's why we can't have affirmative action in college. Because y'all not ready. But it's a setup because they're not educating properly in the first place. But you have to know that. You have to know that. And you don't have the time for any foolishness. Yeah. So I just really wanted to do this to be. This is the book that I wish I would have had when I was young. And my friends had when I was young. The same thing. When your test scores are the same, they say, see, that's why we can't have affirmative action in college. Because y'all not ready. But it's a setup because they're not educating properly in the first place. But you have to know that. You have to know that. And you don't have the time for any foolishness. Yeah. So I just really wanted to do this to be. This is the book that I wish I would have had when I was young. And my friends had when I was young. Friends that we were all growing up, all had different situations, struggles and things like that. Everybody has a story. And I had a lot of friends that went down different paths. It was just by the grace of God that I was able to make it. Now I made some mistakes. I didn't just do everything right all the time. I made no mistakes. And it was by the grace of God that I'm where I am. But I had a lot of homeboys that went other directions. And the only two options for those other directions are dead or jail. That's it. Those are the only two options.
You said something about statistics, and I'm gonna throw some statistics out here tonight in case we don't really know how dire the situation is. And it's not just in the African American community. 2011 census said that 24 million children in the United States live apart from their biological fathers. That is 1 out of every 3 children in America. Nearly 2 out of 3 children that live apart from their biological fathers are African American children. 1 in 3 are Hispanic and 1 in 4 are white, who are living separate from their biological fathers. Now, those numbers are startling when you compare the fact that in the United States in 1960, that number is only 11% versus 33%. So the first thing we have to be clear about is this is just not a black issue. All right, because many people like to point this and paint this as though it's a problem that just simply plagues the African American community. It is not. It is all throughout this country. 24 million children live apart from their biological fathers. And I want to ask Chris a question. Why, even though we know, Chris, that this is not just an African American issue, why is it that you think the media likes to play to the negative image of African American men in our communities?
Well, first of all, to second what you said about it not just being an African American issue, because you can get the wrong idea if you just look at the situation right now. We have to remember, the first fathers to neglect, abuse their own children in this country were the white slave owners who enslaved their own children. So we have to realize any man of any color can fall victim to neglecting his children. But as far as why the media, the media looks at the negative. Everything is negative. You turn on the news, it's going to be the focus on the negative. If Amare Stoudemire got caught at the airport with marijuana in his bag, ESPN and everybody else would be there. But they won't be here tonight.
Participant, I think, in this kind of hyper sensationalism that goes on in our media. Now, you mentioned Amare, but we know that Amare doesn't get caught at the airport. but for you, how, as an NBA star player, how critical is it that people not only come to know you as, a player for the Knicks, but many people don't get to see the other part. I mean, you as a father, as a man who participates in life of children. So how critical is that, your role as a father, and being a positive image beyond the basketball court for so many of our young people, or even in England?
Well, that's what we need as a people. We need more positive images. You know what I mean? So, again, playing basketball and things of that nature is always what most people want to see. But they don't really want to pay attention to what really takes place behind the scenes as far as being a true father, having that daycare time with your children. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times with us as people is that we seem to forget who we are as a people. You know what I mean? We say, we're African Americans, but again, that's 2 continents. You know what I'm saying? We was given that name in 1989. You know what I'm saying? So before African American was what? Negroes, blacks, colors, and then niggers. So we got to figure out what were we before the word nigger. You know what I'm saying? So it seems to me that over time, we just lost touch on that.
Part of the struggle we have is to kind of reconnect with kind of our historical legacy.
Absolutely. We got to reconnect with the Most High. Because in the scriptures, it lets you know exactly who we are as a people. You know what I mean? But it seems like it's not cool to read the Bible. It's not cool to connect yourself with the Most High. When realistically, you want to be smart. You want to reconnect yourself with who you truly are. You look at the Bible is really our history book. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people we don't want to pay attention to that. We don't want to see it. You know what I mean? We pull out the Bible and think it's all religious. It's not really religious. It's actually a true story. The Bible is totally true.
You talk about getting in touch with who you are. And I was reading the book, and the style you had a piece in the book, and you talked about when that took place for you, kind of getting in touch with who you are, understanding your greater purpose. Talk to me.
Well, as a man, sometimes, especially for some of us, we're not honest with ourselves sometimes. Sometimes it's different lives and you try to live up to other people's standards. But as a street, when you're in the streets or you think you're a street dude, you seem to forget about what family standards are, or you don't apply it. And that's really the most important thing. Is that when I sat in jail, I really thought like, damn, my most important job more than anything is being a father. Like, you know what I mean? And it really hit home. I'm not good for my kids, but it just hit me like really just being up and just, you know, be more of a man and focus on that and be good to my kids and be a father and just try to be there. Because a lot of us get lost in the source. There's a lot of dudes, like, I was raised by my mom. My mom taught me how to be a man. So I think that happens with a lot of young gentlemen. And then they get outside, and then they forget what their mom or their pops who wasn't there taught them, and then they lose focus. Like, it's mostly women you see here right now. I see mostly women, you know what I mean? And I think as men, you gotta say, I gotta man up. It's my job to take care of the family, to take care of her, because she's wise, and for that to go on to the next family, and to the next family, and to the next family.
You talk about being raised by your mom and not having your father there. But on the flip side, the book we hear from Allan, who talks about part of the reason why I like this family is for a number of reasons, but you talk about being raised by your mom and not having your father there. But on the flip side, the book we hear from Allan, who talks about, you know, having a father there. And I know as you came to the NBA, financial travel, and talking to more young men in your travels, what really struck you? I mean, if you think about your background, watching your father as a basketball coach, just having him there, even the book you talk about how you frame your vacations around your father's travel schedule. Now, talk about a couple things. One, how critical was it for you with having your father present? And then what did it do to you in your travels when you encountered other players who didn't have your experience and who didn't have that privilege of having it?
Well, first of all, I just have to acknowledge, you know, my beautiful wife is not here, but I have my son and my daughter here sitting here, so it's a blessing. All the time, them to be able to be here and digest this makes this all worth it because, you know, to answer your question, that's what I do. My father, you know, when I got to the NBA and I saw that a lot of the guys didn't have the experience that I had, you know, it was kind of hurt me to say, man, you know, that's different. Well, that shouldn't be different. That should be a standard. We should be an anomaly because I have my father. For a while, you know, it was like almost kind of hit behind it because I was different. But you know, I just had to come to the point where, you know, I have to speak out and say this should be a standard. That's okay. And you know, I appreciate what Styles talked about because what he said is what I got from that was. That was an example. He set that example for me. That was our family standard. You know, when I played for him in Tennessee, there were so many things that I learned just from how he dealt with being my coach. You know, I learned this is an issue of manhood. Like you said, there are a lot of women here because men have not understood how to be men because they haven't taught how to be men. So that's really what when we talk about breaking the cycle, I don't think we need to break a cycle, we need to restore the cycle. One thing I would say that I learned from him is how to trust a Heavenly Father. You know, we know that we're not perfect. And what I saw him praying. I saw him yielding to a Father that is perfect. So allow me to trust the Father because we can't be a father unless we have a connection to the ultimate source. So that's when you talk about that Father, you talk about unconditional love. If you have unconditional love, that's how you can truly love your family, love your wife, love your kids.
talk about an issue that is very critical, because when we talk about fathers who are not present, and let's be clear too, because oftentimes we hear absentee fathers. Some of the fathers not absent, not being in the home doesn't mean you're absent. Let's be clear about the distinction, because there are many fathers who may not be married or connected to the mother, but they're still very active in the life of the child. And sometimes those fathers will stand out. But for those persons who have grown up and their father was not present, was not there, was not even in a relationship, you talk about the anger. And I want to, for our time, to begin to talk about some real issues that really affect persons who have both positive and negative engagement with the issue of fatherhood. So, for those of you here who know of this, I know Scott Speed kind of talked about it, but Etan, talk about why this issue of anger, because part of the issue that many of our young men and women who have grown up without fathers wrestle with is anger that has become internalized and anger that has become suppressed, that has a tendency to manifest itself in other relationships, right? So let's talk about that anger. How did you deal with the anger yourself?
Yeah, that was a tough one. You know, I'm gonna be honest with you. And there was a lot that I had to do, and it wasn't easy at all. And I think one of the things that we're talking about, the connection to God, and one of the things that we have to do as adults is we cannot be afraid of our young people. We can't. And, you know, young people have a style of dress. It might not be the best style to adults. That's, you know, when I was younger, I wore baggy jeans, like 6 sizes too big, or Timberlands, a hoodie. That's what I wore. And young people, some adults were a little bit afraid, a little bit nervous. Right now, the cats wear, you know, they wear skinny jeans and they sag and they got their boxers, and adults can't see past that to even be able to talk to them. But you have to, because young people need guidance, and they're going to get it from somewhere. So if they don't get it from you, they'll get it from someplace else. And what happens a lot of times, don't get mad when I say this, all right? What happens a lot of times is the church can actually turn young people away from Jesus because they don't want to deal with them if they're not packaged in the right way. Yeah. We have questions that we wanted to ask people in the church. Yeah. And sometimes people in the church say, wait a minute, you don't ask those questions. You know, you stay in order like this. You don't question those on things why the church does certain things. If it's something you don't understand, you just keep it to yourself. That doesn't work for young people. Because you know what? They go out in the gangs, they're going to answer any question they have. So a lot of the friends that I had, they had all this anger, they had all this frustration, they went to gangs. In Tulsa, a lot of the gangs from LA moved down to little spots like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, and Nebraska, and little spots in Texas, and set up shop. And they would get the young people and like, well, that's what they would do, they would recruit. And a lot of the friends that I had went in that direction because the gang becomes like your family. The OGs are like your father figures. You know what I mean? The other cats are like your brothers. That's why they'll die for each other, because they really see it like a family. You know what I mean? And if they don't deal with the anger that they have, they're going to go someplace where somebody is going to embrace them. And that's where it's our job as adults to embrace them, even if they're not packaged the right way. And that anger thing is something that is so crucial to deal with. Because there's a book right now I read called Let It Go, T.D. Jakes has it. And that is a tough issue. You know, and I deal with young people who have so much anger that they cannot let go. And for me, talking about it wasn't working. That didn't work. I didn't talk to people about stuff I was going through. You know what I mean? I kept going inside. And I'm getting better. You know, my wife would say I'm getting a little better at talking, right? All right, but I didn't talk. I wrote. So that's when I started getting into writing and poetry and, you know, writing out my frustrations. So when I go with the young people in correction facilities who don't want to talk about their problems, you know, I get them to write about it. And the stuff that they write about is so amazing that they have all of this anger and they don't have anything to do with it. You know, but they have to do something about it. That's why I wanted to have a whole chapter of men talking about their anger. And one thing we have to do, and Styles did a great job of illustrating that in this chapter, is that you have to look at other people's situations, and they're sometimes worse than yours. That's what I have to see. You know what I mean? I was upset that I didn't see my father as much as I wanted to. So I'm like once or twice a month, you know, visitations, things like that. And I would have different guys that would be like, man, you see your father once or twice a month? I haven't seen my father since Christmas. You know what I mean? It's in summertime. You know what I mean? So it's that saying that the man with no shoes didn't know how good he had it until he saw the man with no feet. I had to see him with no feet to see how good that I had it and become appreciative. You know what I mean? Then that anger kind of subsides a little bit and you start learning from it and say, you know what? I don't have it as bad as I thought I had it. So you then become thankful that you didn't have it as bad as it could have been. Because it could always be worse.
So what do you think are some of the, and I asked any of you chime in, what do you think are some of the mechanisms that, because when we talk about fatherhood, you cannot help but talk about the young people, the children, and these young men who have that anger. Because what happens is that angry boys become angry fathers. And so how do we talk about honest conversation about what does that anger look like? Because that anger follows them not only into relationships, but as they rear their children. And here's the real deal. Many young people, you often hear say, look, I don't want to be like my father, especially the father in the present. I don't want to be like my father, I want to be like him. And you find yourself running right in to the person you don't want to be like. And so part of that is because we haven't found mechanisms to deal with the anger that we have experienced in that way. So how would you talk about maybe the importance, Amare Stoudemire, of forgiveness as you reconcile that anger, the importance of forgiveness of father, and even yourself in many ways?
With that issue, you have to be, you're always going to be mad until you learn to forgive. And I kind of learned that the easy way and the hard way. Because when you take a long time to forgive and you're mad, like my mother raised me, but my father was a loving man who taught me to love and forgive. And he had to forgive him just because he still kept in touch with me and spoke to me. And as people, not just as parents, adults, as people, as a community, you have to get in touch with people to tell the truth. If you want to get to the anger, the core of the anger, I'm not going to talk to you if I can't relate to you. If you don't do that, then you're not going to get to them like that. They're not going to feel you, and I'm not going to express my anger to you if I can't talk to you. We have a whole community full of angry men, young black men. So you got to teach them to eat right, sleep right, exercise. Come talk to me. I want to talk to you. What's on your mind? And it's as a people, because as a people we have to do that. Not one family, two family. You got to bring that home, and you got to actually go, besides your son, you got to ask your nephew, your little cousin, the little kid on the block. You got to take time to talk to them. Like, and I'm in the streets, and I make street music, and I have a hard time dealing with them and listening to them, but you got to take that time. I told you, today, my juice bar, he came in the juice bar with his pants. Our generation came with your pants hanging in the back. They had their whole pants, front and back, to the knee. So, if you ain't even talking on you, these pants might be off next time. It's a lot of angry people, and it's not just the children, it's adults who are angry too, like you said. And we mad, and there's things that happen to us, and then you bring it down onto your kid. You can't raise your kid how your grandmother raised your mother. This is not that day and age. It is technology, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, internet. That old way of raising the kids is not going to work. You're going to have to sit down, you're going to have to talk, you're going to have to deal with the frustration, you're going to have to deal with the temper. I got a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I'm pissed almost every other day. I'm pissed almost every other day. But I thank God, and I'm fortunate that, my son's 14, when I was 12, I was on the streets on the crack. My son's a nerd on skateboards, skateboards, and just as people, we have to do that. Not with our own kids, but with everybody's kids. We jump as parents.
What he really said is that we got a nation build. You know what I'm saying? As a people, we got to start teaching each other. You know what I'm saying? Now, I lost my father when I was 12 years old. And I was actually living in New York, so the only way I got my mindset is by listening to Biggie and Tupac. Those were my only two role models growing up. I had to reconcile my thoughts and my feelings. You know what I'm what I'm saying? My mom was a hustler, she was a gangster, so I was riding with her, you know what I'm saying, from city to city. So a lot of time for me, I had to, you know what I'm saying, I had to keep myself focused. Basketball is my main focus, and I won't let nobody take me on track of that goal. You understand what I'm saying? But a lot of our children are not going to be able to become professional basketball players. A small percentage, right? 5% of all basketball players, 5% of them, 400,000 players, 500,000 players they make it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a small percentage. So what Styles P said, I'm just going to allude to that is we got to start teaching each other the right ways to do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm on the streets too. You know what I'm saying? I represent the youth. I'm in the streets with the youth all the time, chatting with them. And what they say is, well, all these athletes and entertainers and singers, why don't they leave us a blueprint? You know what I'm saying? So we sit here and shine and look great on TV, but we ain't even blueprint of people. And if we drop a few jewels here and there to them, they're going to take those few words and that's going to stick with them for the rest of their life. I know for a fact that that's me. You know what I'm saying? So we got to figure out a way to keep them as the kings of the world, right? When I say kings of the world, I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying, the ones you see on TV, they got the big money, riding the big cars, you know what I'm saying, living the beautiful life, the life of paradise. The kings of the world. We got to figure out ways to be positive influences to the youth. They follow us. Whatever we do, they're going to do. We sag our pants low, they're going to sag their pants low.
Exactly.
You know, so we tell them stay in school, keep your head up, you know what I'm saying, stay smart, read, it's okay to read. You know what I'm saying? We tell them that, that's our story, and they're going to take that and live with it. So like Styles was saying, we got a nation build, and it starts with the leaders of the world, the kings of the world. We got to start to lead them, and start teaching them the ways to live.
Chris, I like that.
Then when you come out of school and you get this multi-million-dollar contract, or you're on ESPN like myself, or whatever it may be, then you will make sure you use that platform, that money, and your connections to help our people. That's what Etan was doing. But that's sad to say, most of the athletes don't have that money.
I definitely appreciate Broussard's words. I have to respectfully disagree, and this is why. Well, number one, Amare didn't go to college. He didn't go to college, and he is very intelligent. As you know. The reason why he didn't know that is because nobody asked him.
Right.
That's one of the main reasons why you never hear Amare speaking on this topic. They'll talk about when he hit the fire extinguisher till they blew him away. You know what I mean? They'll talk about that. They'll just put that everywhere. They won't talk about it. They won't talk about this topic here. We recently had a thing called Obama Classic right here in New York. This was maybe last week, and there was about 40 different athletes there supporting President Obama. And I asked a little piece about it because you always hear that athletes are not involved. Athletes don't care about politics. They don't care about the community around them. And that's not true. And I asked some of the young guys to get specific quotes from them. And Harrison Barnes and John Wall and Austin Rivers, and they went into depth about why they were supporting the president, why their particular reasons. And I think the problem is that, and I agree with what you said, that the media only shows one side. And it's only the negative side. But if you don't see the other side, then you think that's all that exists. It's like when in the movie Malcolm X, when Elijah Muhammad poured the water in the glass and he put the iodine in there, and he said, if you offer this to the people, they have no choice but to drink it. Then he poured the other glass and there's a clear water, then he offered this to them, then they can drink it. And the problem is that the media is only offering one side when it comes to us. Only one side, only the negative side. So like you said, if he goes and they caught with some marijuana at the airport, boom, they're right on there. You know, they'll show the basketball wives and act like, you know, like that's the norm. You know what I mean? It's not. They'll show me how many times somebody's come up to her and said, you know what, you're nothing like the basketball wives we see on TV. Like, it's the norm because that's all that they're showing. And my thing is that media does that for a reason. You know what I mean? It's not negativity sells, right? But you have something like, you'll hear it also as far as the shows, as far as anything with athletes, you hear that only negativity equals what sells. But the Cosby Show was on for a long time. Right? It was very positive. Right? But right now they're in this craze of showing us in the negative light. So they'll have 1 million reality TV shows that are all equally horrible and they will just show it all the time. And then people think that's all that is, that all that there is, that that's the real reality. And I think that's one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, because as you said, the media has a tendency to shape reality for most people who don't take the time to delve in. And it's going to often tell people that part of the reason why reality TV shows do so well is because there's something about our own reality we don't know how to handle or deal with in the first place. But I saw Chaz, let me continue, Chaz. I want to talk about, when you talked about the images of your father, I want to come back to that. When you look at yourself now, think about yourself now as a father. Six children? No, yeah, Allan. Seven children. Excellent. And you said that, and my heart jumped a little bit. Seven. Wow. Seven. So when you think about your 7 children, what are, and I hate to do like numbers, but what are maybe 3 things you think are critical for you as a father as you think about raising your 7 children?
I think number 1 is, coming from me, I have to tell them, I have to give them that identity, that consciousness that Amare is talking about. I have to tell them who they are. They have to know who they are, not their personality, not their height, not their build, not their sense of humor. But they have to know that they are a child of God. They are to reflect His character. Like Chaz said, they are to created in His image. So with that, they are to possess those attributes. They are godly. And I think one of the things that happens is, we talked about earlier, we're just lacking the examples of godly men. And I think that we have to be, we can't be afraid, even though none of us are up here perfect, but we have to take a bold stand and say, yeah, I'm okay, and I'm going to try to attain being a godly man. So for one, I have to let them know who they are. Number 2, I have to be an example to them. If my son, we talk about all the time, if I come home, even when I was playing with now, if I come home and I just sit down in front of the TV and don't say anything to them, then that's what they're going to see. That's what they're going to do. If I come home and I have a conversation with my wife and I'm screaming, instead of giving her a hug and kiss and tell her I love you, that's what they're going to do when they grow up. And so, to me, that's number 2. Number 3, I would say I have to communicate. I have to continue to have that conversation to them and not be afraid, like Scott said, to continue to talk about those things. Talk about, sex. One of the things that I find funny, I love talking to other men about, bringing it up. How you talk to your kids about sex. And so forgive me if I won't be too inappropriate for some of the kids in here, but, it's almost like men's face turn pale when you bring that up. We have to talk about this, but it's just one of those things that, from my perspective, we have to be able to be proactive in those conversations. I've been involved and many of y'all seen the new Nas video, Daughters. 21. He's shaking his head like he got a 13-year-old daughter. He's like, oh man, I saw that. I know you know what I'm just saying. So when you watch the video, right, you're saying, wow. But you have to have that conversation, be proactive, and engage in those hard, tough truths. What happens is,
we're not giving, we're just having conversations and we're just going through life, but we're not providing them with real truth. And that's what they can't be active in this society. They can't go to school and be productive. They can't be functional if they don't have real truth. We just can't give them empty words. We have to give them real truth. So I would say those are the three things that I would have to give them.
So instilling a sense of identity, making sure that you embody a certain truth that you think is critical to them, and not being afraid to communicate.
I want to make sure that all the young people in here, which is the reason why I really wrote this book, and I want all the young people to know that they can really be anything that they want to be. It doesn't matter what their situation is. You know, it doesn't matter where they come from. You know, I remember coming home one day when I was young. I think I was just starting high school, and I remember seeing my mother watching TV. She was crying, and she was watching it was an ABC after school special. Y'all don't know nothing about that. I'm dating myself. Young people have no idea what that is, but there was an ABC after school special, and they were talking about how young people who grow up in broken homes are probably not going to make it in life, and it was scary, Mom. And I was like, Mom, I'm not falling into that statistic. You know what I mean? And I made like a pact that I was going to do the right thing, and I was going to be successful at whatever it was. And that's what I want to encourage you. You're going to hear negativity. You're going to hear negativity coming sometimes from your friends. You're going to hear negativity coming from the music, what you see on TV, some stuff you can't control, ESPN, or BET, you're not going to be able to control it. So you're going to get negativity, people telling you the wrong thing to do. And they're going to make the wrong thing to do look like it's really, really cool to do. Like you're not going to get in trouble, like everything's going to be all right. You know what I mean? But you have to be smart enough to want something more out of your life. And know that you can be, it's like sky's the limit. You can do anything that you want to do. But you just have to put your mind to it. If y'all want to go play in the NBA, you know, y'all want to be like Amare, you play in the NBA, that's cool. You know what I mean? You put all of your strength into that. And you be focused on it. And you don't do something that's going to knock you off your path. You be focused on that. But you always got to have a plan B just in case it don't work out. You know what I mean? I graduated from Syracuse University, got my degree in business management, so if I didn't make it to the MBA, I was going to be all right. You know, just making it to college is a blessing. I was able to tell my mom, you don't have to worry about college at all. Don't have to even worry about paying for it because I got it. That's a blessing. Everything after that was cool, but it was extra. You know what I mean? So take advantage of your opportunities and make the most of it. Things aren't always going to be perfect. There are going to be things that are unfair. There's going to be systems that are put in place for you to fail. You know what I mean? You're not going to get some guidance that you should get, even if you have 2 parents at your house. You know what I mean? Something there, everybody has a story, but don't let that story be your excuse not to make it.
You know, I'm going to tell you straight like this. When you think about the evolution of thought, right? And you go back when we were bondage on slavery, and the next step is then now we want to use the same schools or the same restaurant. Okay? Then we go from that to saying we want equality, like we want to be known as a human, opposed to 1/2, whatever, 1/4 of a human back then. You dig what I'm saying? And then we went from that to then have the civil rights. So these are all, those movements were all sparked by evolution of thought. So now we're to the point where we want to be known as one, as a whole, and then we go to now having a black president. So back then, there was no way we would have thought we had a black president now. You understand what I'm saying? So now when I speak about nation building, what I'm saying is being able to build a nation within a nation. You understand what I'm saying? So you got, right now we got a lot of situations that are not righteous for us, right? So again, for most men, we got 4 problems that we deal with. Work demands, the media, finances, and pop culture. Those are the 4 obstacles for all men to get over. You understand what I'm saying? So in order for us to capture those obstacles is for us as a nation to start to stand together. Like for one, you got athletes all over the world or in America that generate billions of dollars. You get what I'm saying? You got entertainers, you know, actors, singers, rappers, network owners who generate billions of dollars. You got black churches that generate billions of dollars. You dig what I'm saying? So from a financial standpoint, you got to understand we got the resources to make sure our people are intact. You understand? But we got to figure out a way to come together. I said a lot of times in the scriptures, it seems like to me is that the Most High has his foot on us for us to then come together as a people for his name's sake to then rise. You dig what I'm saying? Because right now we all worship vanity. We want cars, clothes, men want females, we want all the things that are flashing to the light. You dig what I'm saying? But we're not respecting the Most High. So what he's doing is he's punishing us right now because we don't recognize him. You dig what I'm saying? So when I say nation build, I'm talking about as a people we got to start to come together and figure out a cure to these problems. We got all these resources, we got all this money. We got people that are, in the movie world or in the commercial business or in the cartoon world. They can create a black superhero so our children can have a superhero to relate to. We got people in these areas that can help build our nation. You look around New York City, you go to Chinatown, that's Chinatown. You go to Little Italy, that's Little Italy. You go to the Jewish area, that's for the Jews. You dig what I'm saying? For us, we in the hood, and right now we're in the hood struggling. So as a people, we got to start to understand that we got the resources, we got the power, we got the influence to build our nation.
Me personally, today I had a great day. It's a joyous day for me. For one, I'm an underdog, so I tend to look at things from a different point of view. It's Friday night, it's not something. A lot of people want to be smoking, drinking. We sit here in the church talking about Father. We already started. We started already. We here. We just got to keep it going. So for us, we just got to remember as a people, keep in contact with the youth, keep in contact with each other. Remember we got soul and stay up. And it might be looking bad and it might be bad, but it's also good too because we took the time to sit here and build with each other. So it's a good thing happening. Something good, really good happening.
Someone who likes to talk people to death about anything. And that means for me, it's about how we begin to mobilize and empower our people in these communities to really participate in the kind of transformation that's necessary. Now, I heard all you all talk tonight, and here's what I'm saying. I'm going to hold you all accountable for this. It's not about being a role model, but I think you all embody something powerful in this community. And you embody something that's filled with a lot of potential to really change the lives of a lot of these young people. And, it's like what Chris said tonight. I've never heard anything like this from Amare. All they show you is Amare playing basketball. But I think because the media seeks to minimize our value. And we have to, it's only in forums like this that we get to see who we really are. And not only that, but hear the person that is inside who cares about their people, their plight. I mean, think about this. Think about this panel tonight. And we've had critiques of the prison industrial complex. We've had critiques of the media, of the structures that are imposed to maintain systems of oppression in this country. I mean, all that kind of conversation is taking place tonight. And if we leave here, and you all go your separate ways, and we don't follow through with this, then we have missed a tremendous opportunity to now invest in communities like this and invest in one another. So I'm going to be accountable for this stuff. I mean, earlier I was like, let's do it. So we're going to do it. And we're going to do something that I think that many times I say is taboo in our communities. The idea of mobilizing and organizing again to bring about the kind of transformation we're talking about. So I'm looking forward to what's going to happen. this kind of forum, I'm a firm believer that this shouldn't be on a Friday night. This should be on a Sunday morning. About the work of God. It's about the work of the kingdom. It's about transforming people's lives. That is the call of God. Whether you're going on or not, it is not by accident that you're in this place on tonight. This is my day for a reason, this season. And I thank God for all of you. And I look forward to mobilizing with you all in the future. Amen. Come on, let's thank Styles P.
It's in a deep sleep and the alarm clock is ringing. To the sheets, the Ku Klux Klan is still clinging. Don't wanna give it up, still using the blueprints of Willie Lynch. Black against black, that's a bunch of nonsense. These evil cops got me feeling beyond tense. They killing with no repercussions, do they have a conscience?